The galaxy was silent as the alien fleet entered the solar system. Their battleships were enormous, stretching across the void like floating mountains, each one glowing with deadly lights. They were proud machines of war, polished and armed with weapons strong enough to break entire worlds. The alien empire had sent them to Earth not for war, but for display, a warning to humans that resistance was useless. The leader of the alien fleet, Admiral Korath, stood tall in his command chamber, his eyes glowing with arrogance. He believed that humans were still young, weak, and blind to the power of the galaxy. He believed they would surrender without a fight, because that is what every other species had done before them. In his mind, Earth was just another planet to conquer, another race to enslave, another victory for the Empire. The battleships spread out, their shadows falling over the moon and Earth below. People across the planet looked up at the night sky and saw strange lights moving, thousands of points glowing like stars but larger and closer. Fear spread like fire. Families held each other. Governments argued, and soldiers prepared for the worst. But inside the command centers of Earth, the leaders were calm, their faces tight with resolve. They had known this day would come. They had prepared for this moment for many years. Admiral Korath sent a message to Earth, his voice carried across space in a booming broadcast. People of Earth, look upon our mighty fleet. These are the ships that destroyed 100 worlds. These are the weapons that broke empires. You cannot resist us. You will not resist us. Surrender now and be spared destruction. The message was repeated in every language, broadcast across televisions, radios, and even hacked networks. Every human on the planet heard the words, and many trembled at the thought of what could come. The aliens expect. On Earth, a single order was given, a single signal sent across hidden networks. It was short, only 2 words, but powerful enough to shake the galaxy. Release them. Far beyond the moon, in the dark side of space where no alien scanners reached, something vast began to move. Shadows detached from shadows, giant structures lit up with blue fire, and the first human warship awakened. The silence of Earth was broken at last, not with words, but with power. And in that moment, as the alien cannons finished charging, humanity was no longer the prey. They were the hunters waiting to strike. The alien fleet was preparing to fire, their cannons glowing with deadly energy. But far away, hidden in the blackness of space, humanity's true plan was unfolding. For decades, Earth's brightest minds had been working in silence. While the world lived in peace on the surface, deep beneath the oceans, within hollowed mountains and inside secret orbital stations, engineers built weapons no alien eye had ever seen. The first project was called the Aegis program. It began after the first signals from deep space were discovered. Leaders of Earth understood then that humanity was not alone and that survival would demand more than diplomacy, so they built in secret, keeping their warships hidden from satellites and telescopes. Each ship was forged not only with steel and fire, but with knowledge stolen from the stars themselves. Long ago, fragments of alien probes had been found near Jupiter. The public was told it was only space debris, but in truth, scientists had studied the technology. They had learned how to bend energy fields, how to build weapons that could pierce armor at a molecular level. This knowledge was fed into the Aegis program, and humanity's hidden fleet was born. Now, as the alien cannons hummed with lethal power, those secret warships began to awaken, one by one. Though they rose from the shadows of asteroids, from the craters of dead moons, from hidden hangars orbiting far beyond Mars. Each ship was a giant fortress, sleek in design, but terrifying in presence. They were built for a single purpose, to ensure humanity would never kneel. Back in the alien flagship, Admiral Korath smiled with cruelty. Fire, he ordered, and a wave of energy burst forth. The beams of destruction ripped through the void, smashing into Earth's orbital defenses, tearing apart satellites and small stations. Explosions lit the skies above Earth, and millions gasped in horror. Korath believed victory was his already, but in truth, he had only awakened the storm. Deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean, the command center known as Horizon Base lit up with red lights. Generals and scientists stood shoulder to shoulder, their faces grim but proud. One general whispered, "They wanted fear, but they will meet fire." A final command was sent through encrypted channels, and the hidden fleet received its order. Across the solar system, a thunder of engines roared. The alien scanners suddenly picked up hundreds of strange signals. Korath's officers shouted in panic. Unknown contacts detected. Dozens, no, hundreds. The admiral frowned, his arrogance shaking for the first time. He turned to his advisors. Impossible. They cannot have ships of this scale. But as the screens lit up with images of enormous human warships rising from the void, he knew the impossible was now real. The first of these ships was named the Titan. It emerged from behind the moon, larger than anything the aliens had brought, its hull glowing with blue fire. Alien sensors tried to read its energy, but the numbers broke their systems. Korath stared in disbelief. What kind of weapons do these creatures hold? The Titan spoke first, its transmission cold and sharp. This is Earth Command. You entered our home without permission. Now face the consequences. Then, without warning, the Titan fired a single round. A railgun shot, faster than light, slammed into an alien cruiser and tore it apart in an instant. The mighty battleship that had once terrified dozens of worlds exploded into dust within seconds. Shock spread through the alien fleet. They had come to show power, but now they were the ones trembling. Korath roared in anger, ordering all ships to attack. But for the first time, fear crept into his heart, because in the darkness of space, more human warships were still arriving, and Earth had only shown the beginning. The void between Earth and the alien fleet turned into fire. The Titan's railgun shot still burned in Korath's eyes. The image of his mighty cruiser torn apart in seconds refused to leave his mind. For the first time in his long career, he felt something he had never admitted before. Fear, but pride would not allow him to retreat. All ships forward, destroy them, Korath shouted, his voice shaking with fury. Hundreds of alien battleships moved in formation, their weapons glowing with energy that could burn cities to ash. The galaxy had seen this fleet break countless worlds, their enemies always reduced to ruins within minutes. But today, their fire met something stronger. The Titan moved with terrifying calm, its massive cannons rotating, targeting systems locking with inhuman precision. It fired again. One shot, one kill. Another alien ship exploded, its debris scattering like broken glass across the stars. The humans did not shout, did not boast. They answered destruction with silence and power. From the far side of Mars, more human warships entered the battlefield. They were called the Guardians, each one armed with weapons designed to tear through energy shields. Their hulls were dark, almost invisible against the void, until their engines roared to life. With coordinated strikes, they unleashed gravity torpedoes, black spheres of crushing force that bent space itself. The alien shields cracked, their proud armor folded like paper. Korath's officers panicked, their voices filled the command bridge. Our shields are failing, their weapons, our systems cannot stop them. Korath slammed his fist, refusing to believe what he saw. These are humans, a young race. They cannot stand against us. Fight harder. But his words rang hollow because ship after ship was falling. On Earth, billions watched the battle unfold through hidden transmissions. For the first time, fear began to turn into hope. Children pointed at the sky, shouting with pride, "That's ours. That's humanity." Families who had prayed in silence now felt strength rising in their hearts. The aliens had wanted submission, but they had awakened resistance. The clash grew louder. Weapons fired across space like storms of fire and light. Alien beams struck the Titan, but its armor did not break. Instead, the ship's shield absorbed the blast and converted it into energy for its weapons. In seconds, the Titan returned fire, erasing 3 enemy ships in a blinding strike, and then came the Leviathan. It emerged from the shadows beyond Saturn, the largest warship humanity had ever built. It was not sleek like the Titan. It was a fortress, carrying weapons so massive that the stars themselves seemed to dim when it powered up. Alien sensors screamed as they detected its energy, numbers so high they broke calculations. Even Korath froze at the sight. The Leviathan did not waste words. It opened fire with its main cannon. A beam of compressed plasma ripped through the center of the alien fleet. Ships exploded in a chain reaction. Fire spread across the void and silence followed. In one strike, an entire squadron was gone. Korath staggered, his pride broken. "Impossible. This is impossible," he muttered. But deep inside, he knew the truth. The humans had hidden their power. They had waited. They had planned for his day. And now the galaxy's conquerors were becoming the conquered. But the battle was not over. The aliens still had numbers, still had fury. They launched all remaining weapons, a storm of missiles, beams, and plasma fire. The void shook with chaos, explosions lit the darkness like endless thunder. For a moment, even the Titans seemed surrounded. But then, one by one, more human ships appeared from the dark. The fleet was larger than anyone had imagined. Dozens, then hundreds, each carrying weapons the aliens could not comprehend. The humans had turned the solar system into a fortress, and every shadow now revealed another warship. The hunters had become the hunted, and the first clash was only the beginning. The stars were burning with the wreckage of alien ships. Explosions lit the void like falling suns, fragments of metal spinning into darkness. But even in chaos, Admiral Korath still refused to retreat. His pride screamed louder than his fear, and he ordered every remaining ship to press forward. The alien fleet surged like a storm, firing everything at once. Plasma beams slashed across space, missiles swarmed in waves, rail cannons thundered. It was destruction on a scale that should have crushed any enemy, but humanity was no ordinary enemy, not anymore. The Titan led the defense, its shield shimmering as enemy fire poured down on it. The Leviathan roared from the rear, launching a second strike that cut through another squadron. But then something unexpected happened. The human warships stopped advancing. They spread out, moving into strange positions. It looked like retreat, and Korath laughed in triumph. "See, they run. Even their giants cannot stand forever," he declared. But his laughter froze when his scanners began to fail. One by one, alien targeting systems flickered. Their weapons lost lock. Their sensors showed false images. Entire fleets were firing at shadows, at ghosts, at empty space. Confusion spread like wildfire among the alien ships. "What is happening?" Korath roared, his office pale with panic. The answer was simple, terrifying, and beyond anything they had expected. Humanity had revealed its hidden weapon, the Eclipse Net. It was not a ship but a field of invisible satellites hidden in the shadows of planets and moons. Together they created a massive energy grid, bending light, bending signals, twisting reality itself. The aliens were blind, their eyes stolen, their weapons useless without targets. On Earth, commanders watched calmly as the alien fleet fired blindly into the dark. Generals exchanged sharp nods. Scientists smiled with quiet pride. "This is not their battlefield," one whispered. "This is ours." The Eclipse Net expanded, wrapping around the alien fleet like a trap. Every scan, every signal, every command they sent was intercepted and rewritten. To the aliens, the humans seemed to vanish. Ships appeared where none existed, fleets multiplied in ghostly illusions. It was not only a battle of fire, but of fear. Korath's heart pounded, rage and terror mixing in his chest. He slammed his fist on the console. Counter their tricks, fire everything, destroy the shadows. But the more his ships fired, the more they wasted their strength. Alien ships began colliding with each other, blinded by illusions. Missiles detonated against friendly hulls. Plasma beams cut through their own formations. The proud fleet that had once brought worlds to their knees was crumbling under its own fire. Then the humans struck. From within the Eclipse Net, human warships emerged like hunters from the dark. Their weapons roared with unearthly power. Railguns tore battleships apart. Plasma lances melted alien armor. Gravity torpedoes crushed ships into debris. Every strike was precise, every shot devastating. The aliens could not see where the next attack came from. They were prey in a battlefield they no longer understood. Korath's flagship showed. "Okay, under fire." Alarm screamed, his crew shouted in terror. "We are surrounded, Admiral. Their weapons bypass every shield. What do we do?" Korath clenched his teeth, his arrogance cracking into despair. He realized too late what humanity had become. This was not a weak race struggling for survival. This was a predator hiding its claws until the right moment. Across the galaxy, whispers would soon spread of this day. The day when humans turned the greatest fleet into blind prey. But for Korath, the whispers did not matter. All that mattered now was survival, yet even that was slipping away. The Eclipse Net tightened its grip, and humanity's terrifying warships prepared for the final blow. The alien fleet was trapped in chaos. Their mighty battleships fired blindly into the void, striking only shadows and each other. The Eclipse Net twisted reality. Illusions spread across their screens. Korath's command bridge shook with every mistake his fleet made. He had come to impress the humans with power, but now his armada was tearing itself apart. Yet, this was only the beginning. Deep beyond Neptune's orbit, in the coldest dark of the solar system, another secret stirred. For years, humanity had hidden more than a few warships. Entire shipyards had been buried in the rings of Saturn, in the caves of icy moons, even within hollowed asteroids. There, engineers had worked in silence, crafting vessels unlike anything in the galaxy. And now, as the Eclipse Net reached full control, those ships began to awaken. At first, they appeared as faint blips on alien scanners. Then hundreds of signals multiplied, entire fleets rising out of hiding. Massive engines roared, shaking the void. The hidden fleet had arrived. The first to emerge were the Sentinels, towering warships built to defend against entire armadas. Each one bristled with railguns, missile silos, and energy cannons capable of slicing through planets. Their black hulls reflected no light. Their very presence filled alien crews with dread. They moved with precision, like hunters encircling prey. Then came the Phantoms, ships designed not for defense but for ambush. Their cloaked forms shimmered into view only when they fired. Their weapons were silent, invisible beams that tore holes through enemy hulls before the aliens even realized where the attack had come from. One Phantom destroyed 3 battleships in less than a minute and then vanished again, leaving only silence. The alien fleet was drowning in fire. For every human warship destroyed, 3 more appeared from the dark. For every strike the aliens landed, the humans answered with overwhelming power. Korath's officers screamed, "We are outnumbered, Admiral. They have more ships than we ever imagined." Korath's pride turned to horror as he realized the truth. Humanity had not built a few hidden warships. They had built an entire shadow fleet. On Earth, commanders watched with steel in their eyes. The world was united like never before. Every nation, every people, every resource poured into these ships. It was no longer about defense. It was about survival, about ensuring humanity would never again kneel before another empire. The Leviathan moved into the center of the battlefield, its massive cannon charging with terrifying light. Alien crews shouted in terror, knowing what was coming. In one devastating strike, the beam cut through 5 battleships in a row. Debris scattered like ashes across the void. The galaxy had feared the alien empire for centuries, but now their fleet was being reduced to nothing in minutes. Korath clung to his command chair, his voice trembling. This cannot be. They were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to fear us. But weakness was gone. Fear was gone. The humans had revealed themselves as predators, and predators did not forgive. The hidden fleet closed in, sentinels forming a wall of fire, phantoms tearing apart survivor. As from the shadows and through the chaos, one message spread across human channels, a message meant not for Earth, but for the galaxy itself. Humanity does not bow, humanity does not break, we rise. As the alien fleet crumbled, as Korath's pride collapsed, the humans advanced with terrifying calm, for this battle was no longer about defending Earth. It was about sending a warning to every empire in the stars. The age of human fear was over. The age of human warships had begun. The battlefield was no longer a war. It was a slaughter. Alien ships burned like dying stars, their wreckage drifting across the void. The Eclipse Net blinded them. The Sentinels crushed them. The Phantoms hunted them. And in the center of it all, the Titan and the Leviathan stood like twin giants, unstoppable and merciless. But still, Admiral Korath refused to retreat. His pride chained him to the battle, even as his fleet collapsed around him. "We are the Empire," he roared. "We do not bow to primitives." His officers glanced at one another, fear in their eyes. They knew the truth. This was no longer about victory. This was about survival. The humans pressed their advantage. Coordinated strikes cut through alien formations. Every weapon they unleashed seemed designed to counter alien technology. Plasma beams melted through their shields. Gravity torpedoes tore apart their armor. Railguns ripped their ships into fragments. The galaxy had once whispered of alien invincibility, but now those whispers turned to silence. Then the humans revealed something even more terrifying. From hidden bases near Jupiter's moons, Harbinger-class dreadnoughts emerged. These were not ships of defense, they were ships of conquest. Each one carried weapons powerful enough to shatter continents. Their arrival turned despair into panic among the aliens. Korath staggered back as his sensors lit up with more impossible readings. Another fleet, it cannot be. They cannot have built this many. But they had, because humanity had prepared for this war long. Before the aliens had arrived, every nation, every colony, every hidden base across the solar system had poured its strength into this moment, and now the galaxy was witnessing the result. The Harbingers opened fire, their cannons releasing storms of plasma that tore through the last organized alien lines. Explosions rippled across the void, chains of fire consuming ship after ship. Alien crews screamed as their vessels shattered. Some tried to flee, but the Eclipse net dragged their signals into confusion. Their escape routes collapsed, their engines died, and they drifted helplessly into the waiting guns of the humans. On Earth, the people watched in awe. Children cheered, soldiers stood with tears in their eyes, leaders whispered prayers of victory. For the first time in history, humanity was united not by fear, but by triumph. The message was clear. Earth was no longer prey. Earth was no longer weak. Earth was a power that even empires would fear. Korath's fleet was broken. Half of his ships burned, the rest scattered, trapped, or fleeing blindly. His command bridge shook with every impact, his crew begged for orders. But Korath had no answers left, only disbelief. How, he whispered, how could a young race build all this? The Titan moved forward, its massive guns glowing with power. The Leviathan followed, charging for another devastating strike, and behind them, the Harbingers spread out like wolves, surrounding the last survivors of the alien fleet. The trap was closing, the tide had turned completely. For centuries, the galaxy had feared the alien empire, but now in a single day, humanity had broken its myth of power. The hunters had become the hunted, the conquerors had become the conquered, and Admiral Korath knew with sinking horror this battle was no longer about Earth alone. This was the beginning of something greater, something darker, something unstoppable. The age of the human warship had arrived, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. The void was silent except for the echoes of destruction. Alien ships drifted like broken bones across the battlefield, their proud fleet reduced to ashes, fires burned in the darkness, wreckage floated endlessly, and the once invincible empire lay shattered before Earth. Admiral Korath sat slumped in his chair, his eyes wide with disbelief. He had come to Earth to demand surrender, to show strength, to inspire fear. Instead, it was his fleet that trembled, his ships that burned, his empire that cried out in shock. He whispered to himself, "This cannot be the end, not to them, not to humans." But humanity was not finished. The Titan advanced, its colossal hull glowing with the fire of victory. The Leviathan followed, its main cannon still charged, ready to erase whatever dared resist. And behind them the Sentinels, the Phantoms, and the Harbingers moved as one. A wall of power, an unstoppable storm, a vision of terror for any who watched. Then, across every channel, across every frequency, a voice spoke. It was calm, steady, and cold. "This is Earth Command," the voice said. "You came here to show your strength, to demand our surrender, to claim our world, but now you see the truth." The silence that followed was heavier than the sound of any weapon. Even Korath's crew paused, listening with dread. The voice continued, "We do not kneel, we do not beg, and we do not break. You thought your battleships would terrify us, but you have now seen what true warships are." At those words, the Titan and Leviathan fired in unison. Two beams of unimaginable power cut through the last remaining alien ships, turning them into dust before the galaxy's eyes. Across Earth, billions cheered, the sound of triumph echoing through cities and homes. But in the alien fleet, silence reigned. The survivors watched as humanity stood tall, stronger than any empire, fiercer than any conquer. Roar, and they understood. The galaxy had changed forever. Korath fell to his knees, his pride shattered, his voice breaking. "They will not stop," he whispered. "They will not remain on Earth. They will rise. They will spread." For the first time in his life, the Admiral knew what it meant to face extinction, not as a victor, but as prey. The human fleet spread wide, their silhouettes glowing against the stars. The eclipse net tightened, sealing the battlefield. No survivors would escape without permission, and Earth Command gave its final words. Words not just for Korath, but for the entire galaxy. To all who watch, to all who listen, remember this day. We are humanity. We build in silence. We rise in shadows. And when we strike, we do not miss. We do not seek war. But if war comes, we will end it. Then the transmission cut, and the void was silent once more. The alien empire had once ruled with fear, but now it was humanity that carried the shadow of terror. Whispers would spread from star to star, from world to world, the day Earth revealed its warships, the day humans shattered an empire, the day the galaxy learned that humanity was not prey, not weak, not small, but hunters, builders, warriors, and rulers of their own fate. And as the Titan, the Leviathan, and the endless hidden fleet returned to their watchful silence, the galaxy trembled, for the age of humanity had begun.